What if I told you that the humble dumpling, that simple pocket of dough wrapped around filling, is actually one of humanity's greatest cultural ambassadors? From the frozen tundra of Siberia to the bustling streets of Shanghai, from medieval European castles to modern fusion food trucks, dumplings have traveled the world, carrying with them the stories of empires, migrations, wars, and love. Today, we're embarking on an epic journey spanning 6,000 years and 6 continents to uncover the secret history of the world's most beloved comfort food. This is the story of how a simple idea, wrapping dough around filling, became the thread that connects all of human civilization. Our story begins not where you might expect. The oldest physical evidence of dumplings wasn't found in China, but in the remote Astana Cemetery in Xinjiang's Turpan Basin, a crossroads of ancient civilizations along the Silk Road. In 1975, archaeologists made an extraordinary discovery. Perfectly preserved in the desert's dry climate were crescent-shaped dumplings, their meat fillings still intact after more than a millennium. These Tang Dynasty dumplings, dating from 618 to 907 CE, represent the oldest physical evidence of dumplings ever found. But here's where the story gets fascinating. Contrary to popular belief, dumplings may not have originated in China at all. The Chinese word mantu, originally meaning filled dumplings, is actually a loan word from Turkic languages. Around 300 AD, the Chinese poet Xu Shi wrote that methods for making wheat products come from alien lands. The true birthplace of dumplings appears to be Central Asia, where nomadic Turkic peoples perfected the art of wrapping dough around meat, creating the perfect portable food for life on horseback. These early dumplings could be frozen in winter, dried for long journeys, and quickly boiled over a campfire. From this Central Asian heartland, dumplings began their epic migration along the world's greatest trade network, the Silk Road. Turkish manta, Georgian khinkali, Korean mandu, Chinese mantu, all share linguistic DNA, proving their common ancestor. The nomadic lifestyle demanded food that was portable, preservable, and nutritious. Dumplings met all these requirements perfectly. They could be made in bulk, frozen naturally in the harsh Central Asian winters, and carried in saddlebags for weeks. When hunger struck, a simple pot of boiling water was all that was needed to transform these frozen parcels into a hot, satisfying meal. Archaeological evidence suggests that the technology of dumpling making spread along with the domestication of wheat and the development of milling techniques. As Central Asian nomads interacted with settled agricultural societies, they shared not just their recipes, but their entire food preservation philosophy. This exchange created a culinary revolution that would eventually reach every corner of the inhabited world. While dumplings may have been born in Central Asia, it was in China that they truly came of age. And like all great origin stories, this one begins with a legend and a man known as the medical saint. Around 800 years ago, during a brutal winter in the Eastern Han Dynasty, physician Zhang Zhongjing returned to his hometown to witness a heartbreaking scene. Villagers were suffering from frostbitten ears, with no warm food or proper clothing to protect them from the cold. Zhang didn't just offer sympathy, he created a solution. He stewed lamb, black pepper, and warming medicinal herbs, then wrapped the mixture in pieces of dough shaped like human ears. He called them jawa, tender ears. Boiled and served with warm broth, these medicinal dumplings not only treated frostbite, but created a tradition that would endure for millennia. Today, billions of people still eat dumplings during Chinese New Year, believing they bring wealth and prosperity. Their crescent shape resembles ancient Chinese gold ingots, and families hide coins inside them for good luck. Finding one means financial fortune in the coming year. The tradition of making dumplings together has become as important as eating them. Entire extended families gather around tables, each member contributing their unique folding style. Some making elaborate pleats, others simple half-moons, children learning by watching their elders' practiced hands. But jiaozi were just the beginning. Chinese culinary innovation produced an entire dumpling dynasty. There's baozi, fluffy steamed buns attributed to the legendary strategist Zhuge Liang, who supposedly invented them during the Three Kingdoms period to feed his troops. Wontons, which evolved into delicate soup dumplings served in southern China, their name meaning swallowing clouds in Cantonese, poetry in edible form. And perhaps most famous of all, xiaolongbao. These little basket dumplings were born in Shanghai during the Qing dynasty. Legend says restaurant owner Huang Mingxian accidentally created soup dumplings in 1870 when he added gelatin to pork filling. When steamed, the gelatin melted into delicious broth. Each xiaolongbao requires exactly 18 precise folds, a technique so revered that master dumpling makers train for years to perfect it. The best xiaolongbao makers can create 120 dumplings per hour, each one a perfect jewel containing scalding soup that must be carefully sipped before eating. The Chinese developed specific dumplings for every occasion and season. Shui jiao for everyday meals, guotia, pot stickers, for special occasions, Tang Yuan sweet dumplings for the Lantern Festival. Each region developed its own specialities. Shandong's seafood dumplings, Xi'an's lamb dumplings seasoned with cumin, Guangdong's translucent har gao showcasing fresh shrimp through crystal-clear wheat starch wrappers. Sometimes, war creates the most unexpected cultural bridges. In Japan, the story of gyoza is intimately connected to one of the 20th century's greatest conflicts. When Japanese soldiers returned from China after World War II, they brought more than just memories. They brought a craving for the Chinese jiaozi they'd discovered abroad. These returning veterans opened small shops, introducing Japan to a food that would become a national obsession. But Japanese cooks didn't simply copy Chinese dumplings, they revolutionized them. They created thinner, machine-made wrappers for consistency. They added garlic to compensate for Japan's traditionally less meat-rich diet. And most importantly, they perfected the art of pan-frying, creating yaki gyoza with their signature crispy bottom and tender top. The Japanese contribution wasn't just culinary, it was philosophical. They applied the principle of shokunin, craftsman's dedication, to dumpling making, elevating it to an art form. The city of Utsunomiya became Japan's gyoza capital, with over 200 specialized restaurants. Competition drove innovation. Some shops aged their filling for days to develop deeper flavors. Others experimented with unusual ingredients like natto or cheese. The Japanese obsession with perfection led to the development of specialized gyoza pans, with precisely calibrated heat distribution, ensuring every dumpling achieved the ideal balance of crispy and tender. Japan's most unique dumpling contribution came from Osaka street vendor Tomokichi Endo in 1935. Inspired by a customer who suggested using octopus instead of beef, Endo created takoyaki, spherical dumplings filled with octopus chunks, served with sauce and bonito flakes. Today, this street food innovation represents the soul of Osaka cuisine. The specialized takoyaki pan, with its half-sphere indentations, became a household item across Japan. The technique of constantly turning the balls with special picks to achieve perfect roundness became a performance art, with vendors competing for speed and precision. The 13th century was the age of the Mongols, and their conquest reshaped more than just political maps. It created a culinary highway stretching from Korea to Georgia. The Mongol Empire, at its height the largest contiguous land empire in history, became an unintentional but highly effective distributor of culinary traditions. Korean mandu arrived during the Goryeo dynasty through Mongolian influence. Initially, these dumplings were so luxurious that royal permission was required to eat them. A legendary tale tells of a devoted son who cut flesh from his own thigh, mixed it with other ingredients, made dumplings, and fed them to his ailing father for healing. This myth underscores the sacred nature of dumplings in Korean culture, food as medicine, love, and sacrifice combined. Korean innovation transformed mandu into multiple varieties. Mul mandu swim in clear broths, gun mandu are pan-fried to golden perfection, and jin mandu are steamed in bamboo baskets. During Lunar New Year, families make mandu together, with recipes passed down through generations. The filling often includes kimchi, tofu, and glass noodles, ingredients that reflect Korea's unique culinary identity while honouring the dumpling's nomadic origins. Further west, in the mountains of Georgia, the Mongols may have inspired kinkali, massive soup dumplings with precisely pleated tops. Georgian kinkali represent one of the most technically challenging dumplings to master. The dough must be rolled paper thin, yet strong enough to hold hot broth. The traditional 28 pleats represent the days of the lunar cycle, though modern versions may have anywhere from 18 to 36. These dumplings are so revered that there's a specific etiquette for eating them. Hold by the knob, which you don't eat. Bite a small hole, slurp the juice, then consume the rest. The number of knobs left on your plate becomes a count of your kinkali consumption, a point of pride in Georgian dining culture. Central Asia itself preserved the original manti tradition. From Turkey to Kazakhstan, variations of these steamed dumplings maintain their ancient Silk Road DNA. Turkish manto are tiny, sometimes no bigger than chickpeas, served by the dozens in a single bowl, swimming in garlicky yogurt and drizzled with paprika-infused butter. The smaller the manta, the more skilled the cook. A single portion might contain 40 or more tiny dumplings. Uzbek manti showcase the region's love of lamb and onions, steamed in multi-tiered pots called mantavaka. Afghan mantu are topped with split pea curry and meat sauce, creating layers of flavour and texture. Each Central Asian culture added its own twist while maintaining the essential character of these ancient dumplings. As dumplings journeyed westward, they encountered European culinary traditions and underwent remarkable transformations. Each culture wrapped the basic concept in its own cultural DNA, creating distinctive traditions that would become central to national identities. In medieval Italy, ravioli graced aristocratic tables as early as the 14th century. Italian merchant Francesco di Marco d'Artini first mentioned them in his letters from 1380, calling them maribuni, possibly referring to chestnuts, since the filled pasta resembled nuts in their shells. These early ravioli were sometimes fried in oil and dipped in honey, quite different from today's preparations. Medieval recipes included exotic ingredients like fresh herbs, aged cheese, and imported spices, marking ravioli as food for the wealthy. The evolution of Italian filled pasta reflects regional diversity and fierce local pride. Tortellini from Emilia-Romagna, agnolotti from Piedmont, capelletti from Romagna. Each shape tells a story. The rivalry between Bologna and Modena over tortellini's origin spawned one of culinary history's most romantic legends. Both cities claim their dumplings were inspired by glimpsing a beautiful woman's navel, either Venus herself or the notorious Lucrezia Borgia. The formal recipe wasn't standardized until 1974, when the Learned Order of the Tortellino registered exact specifications. Dough must be 6/10 of a millimeter thick. Each piece must weigh exactly 5 grams, and the filling must contain specific proportions of pork loin, prosciutto, and mortadella. In Poland, pierogi evolved from symbols of luxury to become the soul of national identity. St. Hyacinth of Poland allegedly brought the first pierogi recipe from Kiev in the 13th century during his missionary travels. Originally filled with extravagant ingredients like venison, wild boar, and imported fruits for the nobility, pierogi underwent democratization over centuries. The introduction of potatoes to Poland in the 18th century revolutionized pierogi, making them accessible to common people. Pierogi making became a communal ritual, with entire neighborhoods gathering for day-long preparation sessions. Women would compete to create the most beautiful crimped edges, developing signature styles passed down through generations. During Poland's partition and occupation, making traditional pierogi became an act of cultural resistance, preserving Polish identity through food. Perhaps no dumpling has a more epic origin story than Russian pelmeni. The word comes from the Finno-Ugric languages of the Ural region. Pel, meaning ear, and nyan, meaning bread. These compact dumplings were perfectly adapted to Siberian conditions. Hunters and travelers would prepare thousands at a time during autumn, freezing them outdoors where they would keep for months. A bag of frozen pelmeni could sustain a person for weeks in the wilderness. Pelmeni gained national fame during Russia's Industrial Revolution in the mid-19th century. The Trans-Siberian Railway's construction brought workers from across the empire, and pelmeni became the perfect food for feeding massive work crews. Easy to transport, quick to cook, and satisfying in harsh conditions, they earned the nickname the Heart of Russia. The Slavophile movement embraced pelmeni as authentically Russian cuisine, conveniently overlooking their Finno-Ugric linguistic origins. Dumplings aren't just food, they're vessels of the sacred. Across cultures, these simple creations carry profound spiritual meaning, connecting the earthly act of eating with divine realms. In India, modak holds extraordinary divine significance as the favorite food of Lord Ganesha, the elephant-headed deity who removes obstacles. Ancient Sanskrit texts describe Ganesha as Modakapriya, one who loves modak. During the Ganesh Chaturthi festival, devotees prepare exactly 21 modaks as offerings, though some traditions call for 101 or even 1001. The number 21 represents the 5 organs of perception, 5 organs of action, 5 vital airs, 5 elements, and the mind, together forming the complete human experience offered to the divine. The preparation of modak is itself a spiritual practice. The sweet filling, typically made from jaggery and coconut, represents the sweetness of self-realization. The rice flour outer covering symbolizes the outer world that must be transcended to reach inner truth. The act of steaming, transforming raw ingredients through vapor, mirrors the soul's purification through spiritual practice. Tibetan and Nepalese momos carry the blessings of the Himalayas. Originally made with highland barley flour and yak meat, these mountain dumplings evolved as Buddhist dietary restrictions spread. Vegetarian versions filled with local vegetables and cheese became common in monasteries. The circular folding pattern of traditional momos represents the Buddhist wheel of Dharma, while the pleats symbolize the many paths to enlightenment. During Losar, the Tibetan New Year, special momos called guthok contain hidden objects that predict the recipient's fortune. Coins for prosperity, chilies for a talkative nature, salt for laziness, wool for kindness. This tradition transforms a simple meal into a communal divination ritual, binding families together through shared anticipation and laughter. The samosa's journey from 10th century Persia to becoming India's most beloved street food illustrates how dumplings adapt to new spiritual contexts. Originally called sambosa in Persian, meaning triangular, these pastries were mentioned in Persian poetry as fit for royalty. As they travelled through Central Asia to India, they transformed from baked luxuries to fried democratic snacks available on every street corner. The triangular shape came to represent the Hindu trinity of Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, while Muslim communities saw it as representing the harmony of body, mind and soul. When cultures collide, culinary magic happens. The Americas showcase how indigenous innovation merged with colonial influence to create entirely new dumpling traditions that reflect complex historical narratives. Empanadas began as large pies in medieval Galicia, but Spanish colonists transformed them into individual handheld pastries perfect for New World conditions. The name comes from empanar, to wrap in bread. But what happened in the Americas went far beyond simple wrapping. Each Latin American country developed its own signature that tells its unique story. Argentine empanadas reflect the nation's cattle ranching heritage, with beef, hard-boiled eggs, olives and raisins, a combination that echoes medieval Moorish influence on Spanish cuisine. Colombian empanadas use corn flour instead of wheat, honouring pre-Columbian traditions while embracing Spanish form. Venezuelan empanadas showcase the Caribbean's influence with shark, black beans, and plantains. Chilean empanadas de pino contain a filling so specific it's protected by culinary heritage laws: beef, onions, raisins, black olives, and hard-boiled eggs in exact proportions. Puerto Rican pasteles represent perhaps the most complex cultural fusion in dumpling history. These aren't simple dumplings, but elaborate constructions that can take days to prepare properly. Indigenous Taino people originally made similar dishes with cassava and root vegetables wrapped in leaves. Spanish colonists added pork, chickpeas, and Mediterranean seasonings. African slaves contributed techniques for preparing plantain leaves and specific spice combinations. The result is a Christmas tradition called pasteladas, marathon cooking sessions, where entire extended families gather to prepare hundreds of pastels. The process itself preserves cultural memory. Grandmothers teach the proper way to clean banana leaves, passing down techniques brought from Africa. The masa requires precise proportions of plantain, yautía, and calabaza, indigenous root vegetables that survived colonization. The sofrito base combines Spanish techniques with New World ingredients. Each family guards their recipe jealously, with secret ingredients passed down through generations. In Africa, dumpling traditions reflect both indigenous innovation and colonial adaptation. South African dombolo evolved from traditional steamed bread into fluffy dumplings that accompany stews. The name comes from the Zulu udombolo, but the technique shows influences from British suet dumplings and Dutch cooking methods. During apartheid, dombolo became a symbol of resistance, cheap, filling food that sustained communities through oppression. Kenyan mandazi, sometimes called African donuts, blur the line between dumpling and fried bread. These triangular pastries arrived through Indian Ocean trade networks, combining Arab, Indian, and African influences. The addition of coconut milk and cardamom tells the story of Swahili coast trading culture, where spices were currency and recipes were diplomatic gifts. Today, we're living through a dumpling renaissance, Social media has accelerated cultural exchange at an unprecedented pace, creating fusion innovations that would have been impossible just decades ago. But this isn't just random mixing, it's thoughtful cultural dialogue expressed through food. Modern chefs are creating incredible fusion combinations that honor multiple traditions simultaneously. Birria dumplings merge Mexican slow-braised beef stew with Chinese soup dumpling techniques, creating pockets of consommé-rich filling that burst with flavor. Korean BBQ empanadas stuff South American pastry with bulgogi and kimchi. Ramen gyoza float Japanese dumplings in rich tonkotsu broth, creating textural contrasts impossible in traditional preparations. Food trucks and pop-up restaurants have become laboratories for dumpling innovation. Without the overhead of traditional restaurants, young chefs experiment freely. The Dumpling Galaxy in New York offers over 100 varieties, including green tea shrimp dumplings and purple sweet potato buns. Momo Crawl events in cities worldwide celebrate South Asian dumplings, while raising funds for Himalayan communities. Dumpling festivals now occur globally, transforming from local celebrations to international destinations. Japan's Utsunomiya Gyoza Festival attracts over 150,000 visitors annually. Chicago's World Dumpling Fest brings together 50 restaurants representing 20 countries. Austria's Dumpling Festival in St. Johann features a 500-meter table serving 26,000 dumplings in a single day. Canada's BC Dumpling Festival explicitly celebrates multiculturalism, with Indigenous, Asian and European traditions sharing equal billing. Social media has democratized dumpling culture in unprecedented ways. Instagram accounts dedicated to dumpling photography attract millions of followers. TikTok videos teaching dumpling folding techniques go viral overnight. YouTube channels devoted to dumpling tours create new forms of culinary tourism. Home cooks share family recipes that were once closely guarded secrets, creating global communities united by crimped dough. Universities now offer courses examining dumplings as windows into human civilization. The cultural history of Chinese dumplings at the University of Southern California explores 2,000 years of cultural exchange. Dumplings Across Cultures at New York University uses comparative dumpling analysis to teach anthropology. These academic approaches legitimize what grandmothers always knew, that dumplings carry deep cultural wisdom. What makes dumplings so universally beloved? Science suggests it's more than just taste. It's a complex interaction of psychology, neurology, and social bonding that makes dumplings uniquely positioned to create human connection. The physical act of making dumplings engages what psychologists call embodied cognition, the idea that our physical actions influence our thoughts and emotions. The repetitive folding motion induces a meditative state similar to crafting or gardening. The precise movements required activate the same neural pathways as playing music or creating art. Each person develops unique dumpling fingerprints, distinctive crimping patterns that become personal signatures as individual as handwriting. Neurologically, dumplings hit multiple pleasure centers simultaneously. The combination of carbohydrates and protein triggers serotonin production, our brain's happiness chemical. The warmth activates thermoreceptors that signal comfort and safety. The act of biting through the wrapper to reach filling engages anticipation and reward circuits. Soup dumplings add an element of challenge and achievement. Successfully eating one without spilling requires skill, creating a small triumph that releases dopamine. But the deepest science lies in social bonding. Making dumplings together releases oxytocin, the same hormone triggered by hugging or holding hands. the shared activity creates what anthropologists call collective effervescence, a sense of unity through synchronized action. This explains why dumpling-making traditions persist even when prepared versions are readily available. The process matters as much as the product. Cultural neuroscience reveals that familiar foods from childhood activate memory centers more strongly than other sensory experiences. The smell of steaming dumplings can transport people across decades and continents instantly. This Proust effect makes dumplings powerful vessels for diaspora communities maintaining cultural connections. A single bite can collapse the distance between a New York apartment and a Beijing childhood. Our journey has revealed surprising connections hidden in plain sight, stories that challenge common assumptions about culinary history. The oldest written dumpling recipe isn't Chinese, it's Roman. From the 4th century cookbook De Re Coquinaria by Apicius, the recipe describes isicia aumentata, seasoned meat parcels wrapped in caul fat and boiled, essentially ancient Roman wontons. Even older evidence comes from 1700 BCE Mesopotamian cuneiform tablets held at Yale University. These ancient recipes, among the oldest in the world, describe meat-in-sauce dishes served with wrapped grain preparations. While not exactly dumplings as we know them, these dishes show that the concept of wrapping starch around protein extends to humanity's earliest civilizations. The linguistic trail of dumplings reveals unexpected connections. The path from Turkish mantu to Chinese mantu to Korean mandu creates a clear line of transmission. But more surprising connections exist. The Russian pelmeni shares roots with the Estonian pelmeenid and Finnish pilmenet, revealing ancient Finno-Ugric networks that predate recorded history. The Japanese word gyoza comes from Chinese jiaozi, but follows the Northern Chinese pronunciation rather than Cantonese, telling us exactly which Chinese communities influenced Japanese dumpling culture. Some of the most fascinating dumpling innovations emerged from conflict and displacement. The Korean Chinese dish, jampong, spicy seafood noodle soup, often includes mandu. But this combination was created by Chinese immigrants in Korea, adapting to local tastes. Similarly, Jewish kreplach evolved in Eastern European ghettos as a way to stretch precious meat by mixing it with onions and wrapping it in dough, poverty food that became cherished tradition. Archaeological discoveries continue to push back dumpling history. In 2022, researchers in Turkey discovered 4,000-year-old clay tablets with pictographic recipes that appear to show filled dough pockets. If confirmed, this would make Anatolia a possible original source for dumpling technology, predating Chinese examples by millennia. As our journey ends, we realize that dumplings are far more than food. They're edible history, cultural DNA wrapped in dough. Every fold tells a story of human migration, adaptation, and innovation spanning 6,000 years of human civilization. From Zhang Zhongjing's medicinal jiaozi warming frostbitten villages to modern fusion food trucks serving kimchi pierogies, from Silk Road nomads preserving meat in dough to Michelin-starred restaurants elevating xiaolongbao to fine art, dumplings have carried the hopes, dreams, and flavors of humanity across continents and centuries. Today, a child biting into a dumpling in New York might taste the same combination of wheat and meat that sustained Central Asian horsemen 2,000 years ago. A family making pierogi in Chicago connects directly to medieval Polish traditions. A grandmother teaching xiaolongbao folding in Shanghai preserves techniques perfected during the Qing dynasty. Each dumpling made is a link in an unbroken chain stretching back to the dawn of civilization. In our increasingly connected yet divided world, dumplings remind us that human creativity knows no borders. They prove that the simplest ideas, wrapping sustenance in dough, can become vehicles for love, memory, and cultural continuity. Every immigrant who opens a dumpling shop in a new country becomes a cultural ambassador. Every fusion innovation honors multiple traditions simultaneously. Every family recipe preserved carries forward ancestral wisdom. The great dumpling journey continues every time someone rolls dough, adds filling, and creates a small package of possibility. Whether it's a hurried breakfast of frozen gyoza, an elaborate holiday preparation of pastels, or a first attempt at making momos from an online recipe, each dumpling connects us to this epic story of human ingenuity, migration, and the universal desire to share something delicious with the people we love. So the next time you bite into a dumpling, anywhere in the world, remember, you're not just eating food. You're tasting history. You're experiencing one of humanity's greatest cultural ambassadors. You're participating in an ancient ritual that connects all of us, wrapped in the simple, perfect package of dough and filling that has sustained, comforted, and delighted humanity for 6 millennia. And that journey, dear viewer, is far from over, because somewhere right now, someone is learning to fold their first dumpling, adding their own small chapter to this endless, delicious story.